Well, let's get a check on this date in golf history. We're going to take you back to 2006. The Rolex Women's World Golf Rankings made its debut with Annika Sorenstam as the #1 player in women's golf. Annika's career record at the U.S. Women's Open, 15 starts, 3 victories, 95, 96 at Pine Needles, 06, couple runner-up finishes, 7 top 10s as well. Very impressive stuff from one of the greatest to ever do it. And she made headlines last week when she filed an entry as a fully exempt player for the U.S. Women's Open, hosted in early June at Pine Needles, of course, a place that Annika has plenty of success throughout her career back in '96. It was Sorenstam going back-to-back at the U.S. Open with a 6-shot victory, count it 6, at Pine Needles. And, of course, Annika Sorenstam, I mean, we were joking about 72 career victories on the LPGA Tour. I'm not sure she gets enough credit when we talk about these great athletes. I mean, we talk so much about this generation of the Roger Federers and the Serena Williams and LeBron James and the Tom Bradys, and we need to give Annika Sorenstam her credit as well.
And it was a tremendous pace at which Annika won as well, because, you know, it has been 14 years since Annika walked away from the game to have a family. So she racked up those wins, and her first LPGA Tour win was the US Open in 1995. So she racked up those wins at a heck of a pace, and obviously she played Colonial on the PGA Tour as well. But she walked away from the game with absolutely nothing left to prove, and that's what makes it, to me, so interesting that she comes back with nothing to prove as well. There can't be a hole in the resume that Annika thinks needs to be filled at this point.
What she did last year at the U.S. Senior Women's Open at Brooklawn, I mean, the way she went out there and was dominant. I mean, we expected her to get in the conversation in that tournament, but to go out there and win the championship in the fashion that she did reminded us of what we'd seen earlier in her career. And I feel like this is the type of player, I mean, competitiveness does a lot for certain players. I mean, you think about Bernhard Langer, who we're going to talk about in a bit, what he did again on the Champions Tour. This is a player that gets to Augusta National and expects to make the cut and expects to finish in the top 20. Annika's a player, I feel like, that expects to get herself in the conversation at a U.S. Women's Open. Not a Senior Women's Open, but a U.S. Women's Open as well.
Yeah, I don't think Annika is showing up to be ceremonial or to just make up the numbers. She's still competitive. She's still Annika Sorenstam, and that's what would make it all the more interesting if she did put herself in the mix by Sunday, because you have all of these younger, hungrier players who are out there trying to make a statement. But if they're looking around on Sunday afternoon on the leaderboard and they see Annika Sorenstam's name there, that's going to give them something to think about.
Already committed to the Senior LPGA Championship this year. We see Annika Sorenstam play in a lot of the celebrity events out there, competing with the likes of athletes, ex-athletes, if you will, that are now taking golf very seriously, and those events are extremely competitive. This is a player that has continued to grind. This is a player that goes out there finding ways to play. Certain players hang it up when they get done with their careers, and certain players just can't step away from the game because it's in their blood.
Can you imagine being one of the celebrities who think you've got a chance to win the celebrity division, and then you look down the entry list and you see one of the greatest players of all time in your division, and you're suddenly thinking, hang, I want to file a complaint here. Annika does not belong in the celebrity division. She belongs in the actual competitor division.
Yeah, what does she feel over a 10-footer versus maybe a Jay Feely feels over a 10-footer? I'm assuming a little bit different mentally, but it's exciting to see her back at Pine Needles. I mean, this was one of the great performances in U.S. Women's Open history, to go back-to-back in this championship and to win it by 6 shots on a golf course that is very demanding and can test all parts of your game. And frankly, I'd say is an underrated major championship venue. When we get back to North Carolina at Pine Needles, you get to see a golf course push the players much like Riviera pushes the men on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and Pine Needles has undergone a restoration since then. It's still one of the greatest golf courses in the country. It doesn't get the attention it deserves simply because of Pinehurst #2, a couple of miles down the road. But this is a nice way for Annika to tie a bow on her U.S. Women's Open career, because this was it was her second start in the U.S. Women's Open. It was her second win. And that's assuming, of course, that she intends to tie a bow on it, that there is not actually more if she gets the hunger back again, because who knows, if she puts up a good showing, why would Annika walk away again?
When you think about some of the venues upcoming for the U.S. Women's Open, some of the great venues in our sport, Pebble Beach coming up, Erin Hills coming up, and you've got Riviera coming up, you know, maybe we'll see her start a few more times. You know what we should do? We'll ask her about that. She joins us now, the Hall of Famer, and Pine Needles, the U.S. Women's Open. It almost made too much sense for you to make this a big of a comeback story, Annika.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, what an opportunity. I'm certainly very thankful from the USJ to give me an invite to go play as you know, the U.S. Open, the Women's Open, has a special heart in my career. And that's where my career started, right? In 1995, Colorado Springs, my first victory on the LPGA.
So Annika, I'm curious what your motivation is, because is this to prove something to the kids? Because you don't have anything else to prove to somebody else. What is driving you to go back again?
Well, this is really all about everything but me, really. It's number one is the family. It's number two is my partner. Number three is literally just, representing the game and giving back to the young girls out there, trying to inspire people that want to play. I was a friend of Peggy Kirkbell. She hosted this tournament in 1996, where it was my second championship or major. So I would say it's not really about necessarily comeback. I've said that before, but just being part of the game, having my foot in the game, and trying to inspire as many people as possible. And obviously, I'm very thankful for the invite. I mean, I think, I wouldn't have done this if I wouldn't have received it from winning the U.S. Women's Seniors. So I would say it's not about my game necessarily anymore, but of course, I'm excited. Great memories from there, and just want to continue to grow the game of golf, especially for women around the world.
Have the practice round text began yet? Have you started to get the text from some of these young players going, I want to play with the Hall of Famer?
Yeah, it started, which is really fun. I appreciate it very much, and it's going to be fun. I mean, that course, as just Pinehurst in general, what a golf mecca, to come back there. They've been so supportive of women's golf, and so super excited about that. I have a few months to practice, which is what I need. But again, this is really the journey to kind of continue to defend my title at the Senior Women's Open later in the summer.
Now, Annika, 30 years ago, Joanne Corner finished runner-up in a major at the LPGA Championship. Now, admittedly, it was the Mortals division, since Betsy King won by 11 that week. But she was 53 years old at the time. Do you believe that you can put yourself into the mix at Pine Needles this summer?
You know what? I have no idea. I mean, as you know, I've played in a few events. Just recently here at the Hilton Grand Vacations, it was my home course. I played a celebrity, but I still played alongside the very best. And my goal is not to prove anything like that. I'm super impressed with the young talent out there, how well they're doing. For me, it's going out there, do my best, prepare, and hopefully inspire others to just kind of follow their dreams. So we'll see what it takes to go out there. I can only play the game I have today. I'm 51. I'm not where I was when I was at the number one in the world, but I'm going to do the best, play from A to B. I love that golf course, so anything can happen. But like I said, it's more about everything around it necessarily than just focus on this is what I want to achieve at the age of 51. So I'm really excited about that opportunity.
We spend so much time at this desk praising the LPGA Tour, specifically 2021. It felt like a big year on the LPGA Tour. When you look at the LPGA Tour currently, which young star do you see yourself the most in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I see a lot of great young stars. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I love the international flavor, and obviously it's nice to see Lydia Ko playing so well. She's a member here at Lake Nona. I see her literally every single day. I'm super impressed with the Korda sisters. I mean, Nelly especially, the way she's playing. There's so many great players from South Korea that I admire in a lot of ways. So, I think the LPGA, first of all, it's in a great place. I mean, you got Brooke Henderson from Canada and Utanago sisters and you name it. It's just, I think it's a fun time for the LPGA. And I think Mike Wan has done an excellent job, just putting the players up there, playing great courses. Amazing to see that the purse for the U.S. Open is going to go up. Playing Pebble Beach next year. I think there's so much momentum on the LPGA, and the players, I think they really worked hard to earn that. So, as far as myself seeing one of them, it's hard to pick out, maybe a little bit here and a little bit there, but I think the LPGA is in good shape today.
You mentioned having won the U.S. Women's Senior Open last year. You're already committed to the Senior LPGA Championship this year. You're also playing some pro celebrity events. Did you miss the competition when you were away from it?
You almost miss a little bit. I grew up competing, whether it was in tennis or whether it was in soccer, and then, of course, golf. And, there's a part of me that when I stepped away that, missed that. But, getting married, starting a family, and the Annika brand of business has kept me really, really busy. I really wasn't planning on coming back until, I would say, COVID hit, and you start thinking about what's important in life. And, it's family. Our son is really into golf, and so I practice a lot with him. And then I turned 50, and I realized, well, maybe I should support some of these events that's out there because they're giving us a platform to continue with what we love. So But having said that, I mean, this is this year maybe it's going to be 7 or 8 events. I'm excited to be able to join my partners in these events in different places around the world, and that's about it. But it's been a fine balance. It's been fun to get back, and of course, hanging with some of these young players again, it kind of gives you energy and like a little fizz back into my career.
Annika, I was kind of joking a bit about the practice round text messages you're going to receive from young players, but you are going to have young players coming up to you and asking you for advice. What's the key piece of advice you give to young players when they ask you how to navigate professional golf?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love to share my stories and my knowledge and certainly my passion. I mean, a lot of the questions, I mean, I do that through the Annika Foundation, and, a lot of it is about, practice rounds, as you mentioned, how to prepare for tournaments, how do you work with caddies, how do you deal with sponsors, how do you plan your schedule? I mean, it varies from player to player, but I tell them these are just my experiences, and, just, you got to learn, but you also got to try. And I mean, we all make mistakes along the way. We all know that this is not going to be a straight journey. It's going to be more, bumps along the way, but, take one thing at a time and learn from your mistakes. I mean, I've made mistakes in my life, but I think the best thing you can is just to bounce back and not do them again. So, I look forward to that, to the mentoring role I always have. And if I can help anybody, a young girl, a young boy, to achieve their dreams, then, thumbs up for that.
There are certain things that just make sense in the game. Jack Nicklaus walking the second 9 at Augusta National. Annika Sorenstam playing in a U.S. Open at Pine Needles. We appreciate the time. We look forward to it this summer.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Take care, guys.